I am so excited to be here with you tonight for part 18 of our 20,000 part series on disruptive technology. And today we are going to be talking about a subject very near and dear to my heart because it is um, the going concern in our specific industry or uh, area of the market. So we are going to be talking about photovoltaic solar panels. So I'm super excited about that. I love any kind of clean, green technology that prevents fossil fuels from being super, super excited to be talking about um, photovoltaics and their place in the market and how they are helping to eliminate what they refer to as greenhouse gases, but what I like to just talk about as pollution, because I actually get quite perturbed and upset by people talking about um, GHG and seed carbon this and that and this and that, because I don't really understand what they're talking about, and people argue about climate and they argue about stuff. So whether it's a problem and this and that and this and that. So I prefer to just talk about solutions for problems that we can all agree on, like pollution. So I don't want to argue whether or not carbon is good for the environment or not. However, obvious to anybody that you don't want to go and stand beside a stinky coal plant or stinky engine that's burning or anything like that. You'd much rather stand beside a nice, shiny black solar panel because it doesn't stink. Yay! No burning going on there. The technology isn't perfect. It was actually designed for the space program. So it's not really new technology. However, it has become increasingly disruptive in the marketplace as it takes a share of what traditional fossil fuel electrical generation has been occupying over the years. Now, luckily, things like photovoltaics have come about in order to eliminate some of the fossil fuels that otherwise would be burned in order to meet humanity's energy requirements, moving forward into a bright new future full of amazing electronic, eco-powered devices, and just it's phenomenal. All the improvements of products that are going on and new products that are being uh, brought to us every day to make our lives easier. And photovoltaics has a long history of being something that has made humans' life easier from the first, I think, commercial product that we got using photovoltaics, which we all will remember as our solar-powered calculators. I don't know if you're at that generation or not. You may not um, been around when they first came out. However, you probably use one now because I think they all are, whether people are aware or not, solar powered. Um, solar powered. I'm sure they have battery operated calculators, but I think they're all solar powered now. But I think a lot of people maybe especially in younger generations that never lived without the solar power calculator, may take for granted that their calculator is actually run by the sun or the light of a bulb of some type, which we talked about illuminating light industry disruptive technology a couple days ago. But today we're talking about PVs. So Larry, do you have any opening comments in regards to photovoltaics as a disruptive technology?
I agree with you that it's really good to see that there's a power source available to us that is not going to require us having to burn something. Because as to reiterate what you said, pollution you know, you can label it greenhouse gases or global warming and all this stuff, but you're right, it really boils down to pollution. And photovoltaics, they don't pollute. They don't pollute when they're working, and there are some issues right now with photovoltaics after they've had a life cycle, and so how they're recycled, I think they're still working on that. So it is kind of an issue when you consider how many photovoltaics are out there now. There's a lot of power plants that are operating with photovoltaics. And as these photovoltaics get old, it's difficult to say what they're going to do with all the things. But knowing how quickly we adapt and make changes, I'm sure they'll figure out ways to recycle most of the solar panels that they do make. So yeah, for sure, it's great to have any source of energy for electricity that does not involve or need to be burned. And so that's, I agree with you 100% on that.
So I'm so very, very grateful for pollution as a problem because the way that I have learned to think about life is that every problem provides an opportunity for a lucrative solution. So as a business owner and person that wants to make life easier by providing fabulous products and services to people, I am always excited to see such a big problem like pollution, because there's so many opportunities for so many different types of technology and different companies to provide solutions for such problems. And pollution is a huge one. So there's plenty of room in the marketplace for photovoltaic technology and all other kind of technologies that exist there. And I think it's just a matter of improving and finding the best one. I know people like to say that there's no magic bullet and that kind of thing, and I think that's kind of oxymoronic, because bullets don't usually have anything to do with magic. So it's like, it's just a stupid thing to say, because really I think that there are actually solutions. The way that I look at things and think about things is that the universe would not send us a problem that we weren't able to solve. Like, that would just be almost as dumb as that no sorry, I lost, as the no I can't remember the phrase that I just used. Anyway, I lost my train of thought. Sorry about that. So going on about photovoltaics. There's not as much movement on photovoltaics as you would kind of hope to see. And so I noticed in other areas of the world where I've been fortunate enough to do some traveling, and in places where they have more expensive utilities as far as like oil and gas and coal than what we have here in North America. I found that places in the world where that is more expensive, they are much more putting the photovoltaic technology to use and utilizing it as a resource for energy. And I think it's unfortunate that in North America, because we have cheap polluting energy, we don't just decide that it's worth the extra expense to get our homes using photovoltaic or some other type of green technology, to pay the extra money to be able to do that, because of the long-term benefits that would be felt instead of, I think everybody deep down in their common sense realizes that there are long-term, uh, what's the word? The opposite of benefits. But there are long-term consequences. That's the word I was looking for. Long-term consequences for the way that we do use oil and gas, and that if we could bring in more of green, non-polluting technologies, that would be so much better for the world in general. And so something that we work on at King Sunshine Solar Systems is to be able to provide a less expensive solution than photovoltaics. So Larry actually knows quite a bit about photovoltaics because he has kind of studied it because it is important to what we are trying to do as far as improving on their efficiency and their costs. So if you want to take something and improve on it, you got to kind of know what its capabilities are so that you know kind of gauge the where the savings or the potential benefits of one technology over the other may lie so that you can market it. So can you just kind of describe to some people that might be watching that aren't even too sure what photovoltaics are? Like they may realize they're solar panels but not know the basic idea of how they work or what they're made of, or any valuable information that you might have to share with people that may not know about photovoltaics?
Sure. Because we're in a different area of power generation with King Sunshine Solar Systems and our equipment, there are certain aspects that I didn't really study up on regarding photovoltaics. However, it's easy to break it down into the simplest form. And it's kind of almost like human body parts, because a photovoltaic involves something called photocells, and these cells are actually they're about this big on most solar panels, and they are linked together to produce energy. Now these cells, these solar cells, I think I call them photocells, they're actually solar cells, consist of different types of chemicals. And over the past number of years, there's been a super race, like a speed race, trying to find out the best chemicals to use to make more and more electricity and have greater efficiency. Is the big term that most photovoltaic manufacturers talk about, their efficiency of their solar cell. So there's some really interesting designs for photovoltaics. Now we have, when we were in Germany and when we were in Dallas, a lot of those trade shows in both with Solar Power International in Dallas and with Intersolar in Munich, there was a lot of photovoltaics, of course, because it's probably at least 80% of the solar power industry is those types of products. So we saw several different types that some are clear now, which was really kind of a surprise for me, is to see photovoltaics that you could actually see through, and they still made electricity. Their efficiency wasn't quite as great as some of the other manufacturers. I don't know what the highest number is now. It gets kind of confusing because I get these daily updates from PV Magazine on efficiencies, and their numbers are around, God, I can't even remember. I don't think they go up to 30 yet. Maybe there are some. However, I noticed that the clear solar cells, or they call it flexible film, are lower efficiency but more flexible. Like you can use it for other things, like If you want some light to come into your home, you can actually use them on your windows, still create power, but at the same time, you're not blocking out all the light with a standard solar cell array. And so with that's kind of what you're looking for. Is that sort of information? Am I on the right track?
Yeah. Just how you think maybe how.
Nuts. Are you still there? Nuts. I lost you. I gotta. Well, I don't know if you're still on. I think I am on. And so I will, I'm pretty sure I'm still connected, so I'll continue with what I was saying about the flexible solar panels. Is that because they're getting into more flexible designs, it's really great to have those options because you might already know when you drive around some neighborhoods in North America, you'll see houses, even here where we live, they have houses that have solar panels on them, and they're kind of big and thick and they're bulky looking. Well, with this, a lot of this new technology, that's not even going to be a concern. So I think you're still on, but I think I'm off, so I'm going to try to refresh this. No, I think I'm on. So Trish, I think you might have, if you can hear me, I think you've got a connection problem. I'm still live here, so oh yeah, you're coming on now. So what I was saying is with these the old style of solar panel, they seem to be really stuck on top of the roofs, and they take up a lot of space. And so with the new flexible solar cell or solar panels, we are able to do a whole bunch of new stuff. In fact, since we've just taken on some new direction, or I wouldn't say new direction, but we're able to implement a lot of strategies now with our solar heat collector, where we're going to actually be implementing flexible solar panels into the housing design for our solar heat collector. And what this means is we're already producing a lot of power using our own electrocrown with the thermoelectric generators and our kaboomer on the inside. With that alone, it's producing a lot of heat energy and electrical energy. Now when we add these flexible solar panels to the inside, well, they'll basically be facing the inside of the pyramidal shape that you see on our website. On the inside there's all this light that's also being slightly reflected because it's not all entering the kaboomer, so you get a little bit of reflection. So these solar panels, or flexible solar panels on the outside, I'm pretty sure we can actually cut them to the shape of the pyramid, make them fit, so we're pretty much completely stocked up on covering all area on the inside, and that will be able to generate even more electricity. So what it boils down to is really mind-boggling, because of this new photovoltaic technology that we can access. It's not so new. It's been around. I can't remember the name of the flexible PV manufacturer that I first discovered. They manufacture flexible solar cells for the military mainly. However, there's a lot of new photovoltaic companies out there, like I've been mentioning. So I believe we can actually cut these solar cells to shape, put them into our design, and create more electricity, more energy on top of the energy that we're already creating with our solar heat collector, with and our electric ground. So it's going to be. I remember when we were in Intersolar in Munich, Germany, that there was engineers that looked at our machine and they said they were kind of awestruck that we were able to produce as much power as we could with our small footprint. So now when they come out and see us next time we're in Munich, we're going to be incorporating some of their products into our design to create more electricity. Like, although the solar heat collector and the electric ground are completely different than photovoltaics, I'm really, really happy that we're going to be able to incorporate some of that old technology of photovoltaics into our new design to produce more electricity, because the more sun we can capture, the more solar energy that we can capture. And I always explain it as what we do that's a little different than everybody else is we capture that solar energy and we don't let it go. It gets put into the kaboomer and we make full use of all that energy. And as you know, photovoltaics, they reflect a lot of energy and they heat up. And that's a bit of a drawback with photovoltaics, is because when they heat up, they're not nearly as efficient as when they're cold. And so that's a real big issue for that whole industry, the photovoltaic industry. And in a sense, I kind of feel bad, because so many companies have been using this older technology, and it's kind of limited. It's kind of limited because it was invented for use in outer space. And when you're using that technology on the planet, you have a lot more factors. You know, you've got weather conditions, you've got heat buildup, which is the big one, and all sorts of different things can actually cause problems for the photovoltaic products. So I think in general, the photovoltaic technology is increasing increasing in the way as they're trying to get the maximum amount of power out of the products they already have. However, what we do at King Sunshine is a completely different animal, and on our next test, which you'll see on our video, we'll be proving that we are putting out that more amount of energy, greater amount of energy as photocells the same size, like 4 times as much energy. Just simply because we're not trying to get away from the heat. We're using that heat, and we're using the light. That's something you always got to keep in mind. With photovoltaics, you're only using the light energy. You don't want to use the heat energy. So they spend a lot of time, the PV manufacturers spend a lot of time thinking, how do we cool this stuff off in the heat? And that's really sad. That's really sad, in my opinion, because the sun is giving us this energy, all of it, the light and the heat, and who knows what else is in it. Like the whole spectrum of light involves, the radiation and the light, different waves of light. So we should always be focused on using all of that energy, not just some of it, because it's just stupid to not be using all of it in a small square foot. You know, for whatever square footage you got, produce as much power of the sun as you possibly can. And another thing about photovoltaics is, in reference to King Sunshine, photovoltaics are not able to produce electricity when the sun goes down. Whereas with our technology, we can continually produce power when the sun goes down, as long as we have the well-insulated containers to maintain that our fluid temperature of 200 Celsius, and that's a piece of cake. Like, it's really easy.
Getting back to the subject of tonight's hangout, photovoltaics, I was just hoping that you would at some point during the hangout talk a little bit about how things have gone for the photovoltaic companies out there in this fierce competition to be the most efficient. And I think at the same
kind of a battle.
And I think at the same time, it's a battle for efficiency as well as expense, and how the marketplace has reacted in regards to whether expense or efficiency has been more important to the consumer.
Well, the consumer, a lot of the information I get is on the cost per watt. And I remember, I think there was a time there when it was lower than 50 cents. I don't know if it still is. It was the cost per watt really dropped. And so, yeah, that's always kind of a battle is what do you want to do? Do you want to spend a lot of money to produce a little more power? Or do you want to spend a little bit less money to produce an adequate amount of power? So I think it kind of is all up to the end user, and that I'm not even sure how they can figure that stuff out. Like if you got a lot of property, if you got a lot of land, a lot of square footage, you might as well just fill it up with junky kind of low power output photovoltaics, like the cheapest panels you can get, because you've got a lot of land. Whereas if you're doing the top of your building, an industrial building, and you're using those photovoltaics to power your building, yeah, you're going to want some pretty wicked powered photovoltaics on your roofs, simply because you don't have a lot of square footage on a roof. So it's different for each application.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of things that you have commented to me. Obviously, to anybody out there watching, you can see that Larry has obviously studied this topic a lot more than I have, so he definitely has a lot more to say about it, and is much more up on how photovoltaics are out in the marketplace. And I know that a lot of times you've reported to me that some photovoltaic companies did not make it through the gauntlet that is a startup company and the ability to survive in the marketplace. And there has been some pretty amazing success stories with the opportunity that solving this fossil fuel issue has been. There's been some amazing opportunities and great success stories, but there's also been some failures out there in the marketplace. So do you just want to talk a little bit about where photovoltaics have kind of been and where they're going, as far as maybe who the biggest players are and that kind of thing?
Well, I know in our own country, Canadian Solar is getting quite large. They're setting up some very large photovoltaic plants. And everything that I remember about that company from day one, I believe the guy who started it immigrated from China to Canada. And I remember he was the first guy to bring these trickle chargers to the solar trickle chargers that you put on the dashboard of your car, keep your battery charged. I'm pretty sure that's the same guy, and he brought those in at Canadian Tire and wherever he could sell them. And I think that's how he built his business, was that one product. So, and those are pretty good, impressive photovoltaics. So that company's doing really well. I'm not sure who the number one company is. Like I say, I get inundated with a lot of data every day, and you kind of lose track of who's first. However, Canadian Solar's has got an adequate, a pretty good PV module that they're selling a lot of and making solar power plants. The companies that you're mentioning that went belly up right after, I remember seeing some of these companies in Munich, Germany in 2012, and right after that, it went for about 12 months straight. I kept getting all these really sad emails reporting that these companies that I thought were really cool were filing for insolvency, and that a lot of German companies, some American companies, and then I knew that China was selling comparable products for super cheap. And we learned that when we were in Germany, is that the Chinese were just going nuts and making lots and lots and lots and lots of solar panels, good quality, and selling them for super cheap, because basically I think it's because they're a communist country and they're not really based on a capitalistic system. So they make their products and they sell them at cost. It's just the way their government is run, which is unusual for Europe and for North Americans to get used to. But hey, if that's the way a country operates, you got to suck it up, or else it's like sink or swim. And I think that's what happens. A lot of places sunk because they weren't sure on how to deal with all that. And I don't know if it's still happening, because there was because of that starting to take place with all these companies, they of course tried to save themselves by asking the governments of each country for help and saying, help us, because they started accusing China of dumping their products into the market, which is basically a definition of that is giving away your product for nothing, which really wasn't the case. It's just when your company's in a real bind and you've got a lot of investors and a lot of people looking up to you, you kind of think, well, what are we going to do here? Well, let's get the government to help us. Let's take China to court or whatever. And so that's kind of in a nutshell what happens. And I'm not sure how it all is going to come out in the wash, because I think it's still an ongoing issue with a lot of North American and European manufacturers. I'm just really glad that we're not affected by any of it, because we're in a whole different area. But probably someday we will be. I don't know. But yeah, it's a big issue. And as you were saying earlier, there is new technologies and new techniques coming out by these companies, and one in particular, I think it was Q-Cells, comes to mind. They had put out a product that was really innovative. In like less than 3 months, China copied it. It was like, whoa! And they were selling it for cheap. It was like, how can you come up with something unique and original and capitalize or make it a monopoly on that product when there's a communist country that can just boom, put a product out there, and you just gotta deal with it. I think you gotta. I'm not sure how to deal with that stuff yet. It's still a learning curve for me. I just want like our product to be out there and as a standard, and I'm not too concerned on how it gets out there, so long as everybody knows, well, this is the going concern. So I think that answers your question.
Yeah, pretty much, I hope. So, photovoltaics, I was talking to someone in Germany and they were kind of explaining to me that the recycling process is very similar to that they do with electronics, which for those of you who are not aware, when they recycle electronics, basically all they do is they take the precious metals. There's like gold fittings, or I don't know, different gold um, pieces in a lot of the electronics that we use. So basically, they just mine out precious metals from the electronics, and then the bulk of the material winds up in the landfill. And apparently, when recycling photovoltaics, which for those of you that don't know, photovoltaics have a lifespan. Larry was kind of touched on that, where they don't last forever. So a lot of times, once you come close to getting into an area where you're actually kind of profiting from having them by not having to pay out for utilities, by that time, a lot of times they've come close to their usable life. And then the disposal of the photovoltaics becomes a bit of an issue. Do you have any information to share with our viewers about how the photovoltaics are disposed of and or recycled?
Not a lot. I know there's glass in the manufacture. There's a lot of aluminum in a lot of the standard panels. For photovoltaics, like I don't like to use the term solar panels. I sometimes make the mistake of saying solar panels, and that can cover a lot of thermal products as well. But for photovoltaics, that's got to be really tricky because there's, I believe there's silver in there, like you're saying, the precious metals you pull out of them. So what you're left with is, God, it could be anything that's making any of those gallium or I can't know how to. I'm not a chemist, so I don't really know the actual metal names or chemical names that are existing in there. But I'm pretty sure some of those are heavy metals, and it would really suck to see something containing heavy metals going to a landfill. I'm not sure if they have a method of taking those heavy metals out, if they are containing heavy metals. However, there's, like I said, there's the glass which can be recycled, and the metals, the general metals like aluminum. Not too much else really in there. I'd have to look it up. I think you're muted.
Oh, the information I got in Germany was, yeah, a little upsetting because I had inquired about it, and I got some information about, yeah, we'll come and pick up your solar panels and recycle them for you, and I think you had to pay for it, like for them to uninstall the old panels, I guess. And then from what the gentleman that I talked to there, he was an actual installer, was his job. He lived in Germany. He was from Germany, and he was at the trade show with his company, and it was a group of installers. So these are the people that go and they basically hang the solar powers on roofs. And so he explained that because they install, obviously Germany's far ahead, so they have solar panels that have outlived their useful lifespan. And so gentlemen like this one that I was speaking to in Germany, I'm trying to think of his name. It may come to me. He was explaining how they would go to install the new solar panels, and they would have the old ones, and they had to, I believe, pay to have them. I could be not remembering this quite right, but I believe he told me that they had to pay to have them um, sent away, and then that basically, yeah, like the electronics, they were stripped of the valuable parts, and the rest just got kind of dumped in the landfill. And then I think he was explaining that somehow the chemicals that they used are embedded right into the glass, so it's not like normal glass that can be recycled. So they really have no way of doing anything with the black shiny kind of material that you're used to seeing as part of the solar panels. Well, it is. I can't remember if he said it is glass or glass with stuff mixed, chemicals mixed in it, or if it was like glass that had chemicals mixed in it. But he said that it was not recyclable like glass. So
Yeah, they
yeah.
use an anti-reflective coating, I think, that they put onto the glass, and
Okay.
that would probably change the structure.
Yeah, so anyway, he explained that it could not be recycled with regular glass, which is recyclable. At least here in Canada, it's regular. It's regularly recycled. Basically, it's just sand. So they recycle. I'm surprised they don't recycle it everywhere, but I'm sure they do most places. However, when you're dealing with this special coated glass, I guess, if you will, for photovoltaic solar panels, then they're not recyclable because of the coating, I guess. And then, so a lot of times the stuff ends up into the landfill, and some of these chemicals are actually pretty toxic and not good to have in a landfill, which will be able to allow water to seep into the drinking supply. So yeah, that's a little bit of a drawback of this particular technology. However, it has been very helpful in reducing fossil fuel consumption, especially in the places around the world where they are very widely used. Which mainly, I think, Larry, can you talk a little bit about how the distribution of use is with photovoltaics? If you've looked at any of that, I've only really looked at it from what I see, and what I see is where I am, and most of the places that I've traveled in North America, I don't see a lot of PVs being used. As when I was in Germany, there was quite a significant amount of um, photovoltaics that I saw mounted on roofs all over the place, it would seem. And then in Asia, I really didn't see very much. I'm assuming because of the expense, it's not a big, widely used in Asia, although I understand it's a really, really, really big growing market in Asia, and they're using photovoltaics more and more in places, especially like China, that are dealing with the consequences of fossil fuel consumption at a rapid pace due to their large population. So yeah, they've had some issues with smog and stuff that has motivated them to look a little bit more closely at alternatives like photovoltaics. So do you have anything to say about that, Larry?
Yeah, I would just agree with you on that. Like it's Germany, I think, was shooting towards 30% of their electrical usage coming solely from solar power. Um, but you get all this, you get a lot of conflicting information. I like to go to the PV magazine because it's usually quite accurate, and then I verify it with other websites. And so I know that there's some really amazing things starting to happen in China itself, because I've never heard of society being able to change so rapidly. Um, from realizing, like, it wasn't too long ago that they started getting a lot of cars, automobiles, booting around all over China. Like their requirement for oil and gas went way up. Like they started buying from Alberta, where Alberta was in communication with wanting to sell them, which is where we are, and that was kind of new because I was, as a kid growing up, always knew that all of our oil was going pretty much to the east or down south. And so knowing that, then you started hearing that they started getting really wicked smog in a lot of their bigger cities because people used to boogie around on bicycles and that kind of thing, bicycle power and really small vehicle power. Not a lot of gas, hydrocarbon burning vehicles. So that all started to change. And then just recently, I heard that they're going gangbusters on putting a lot of these photovoltaics in place that they're actually manufacturing. And it's already having an effect on the reduction of the pollution.
Oh, sorry, everybody. Larry's frozen. I love this technology. It's so awesome. So yeah, photovoltaics have they started off in the space program, and they were not really doing much for about the first 20 years that they existed, which is really rare, I think, in the world of disruptive technology. Because typically, when something is new, people grab a hold of it right away. However, because photovoltaics arrived on the scene during a time at which there was an abundance of um, inexpensive oil and gas and fossil fuel resources in order to meet our energy requirements, and I guess 40 plus years ago now, when photovoltaics were developed, I don't think that there was much of an awareness of the long-term consequences that would exist in the future because of the burning of fossil fuels, which today we are quite aware of what greenhouse gases are and what um, how important efficiency is for our vehicles and heating and powering our homes. It has become a very, very big priority for people because of the problem of pollution. So with any problem, I always believe that there's a huge opportunity for a solution, a very, very lucrative solution most of the time. And this problem of pollution is no exception. Basically, if you have a good solution that is highly efficient and also inexpensive, you have a golden opportunity to go out there and start creating win-win scenarios in business where you are not only solving a problem and helping the planet, but you're able to create a lifestyle of abundance where you can have wealth and basically whatever you want, because all it really takes is one good idea to go out there and solve a problem in order to basically create a profitable business. So being a profitable business owner is one of the most freeing roles that I play in my life. There isn't too many other things that I do in this life that allow me to it's not even so much something that I do, it's more something that I am, because I just am able to delegate to employees the important things that need to be done, and I myself can go horseback riding or go to the beach or go hop on an airplane and go to Boulder, Colorado for the weekend, or go to spend the week in Amish country in Ohio, or do all these amazing things. And it's all because of being a business owner. And so the problem of pollution is a huge, huge opportunity. And I'm telling you, it only takes one idea to go out there and clean up some area of our environment, and you can create a profitable business that many times can come from a product that basically takes care of itself. Because if you have a product that solves a problem that people love, you can hire all kinds of people to handle the production and distribution of that product, and you basically can just cash in on the idea without really putting the huge amount of effort that many people put into a job where they're working to build a business that stems from somebody else's problem-solving idea. So even if you are working a job and you are an employee, just keep your eyes and ears open for problems that you can potentially solve, even in your industry. It doesn't always have to be to clean up the environment and eliminate fossil fuels. It can be to make life more fun or to provide entertainment for people. There's all kinds of ideas and potentials for creating businesses wherever problems exist. And photovoltaics, getting back to our topic now that Larry's back on air with us, photovoltaics started off for a long period not really being very much of a disruptive technology. However, in the last, probably especially the last 5 years, the implementation of the technology has grown to the point where you can say that it is definitely disrupting the status quo and the way that we create and use energy. And it's more, the effect is more noticeable and more impactful in some areas of the globe than in others. So Larry, did you have any comments in regards to how photovoltaics initially were not really a disruptive technology, because they kind of sat on the shelf at NASA for a really long time and were maybe put to work on satellites and stuff, and really didn't make it to the public other than in our solar-powered calculators that a lot of us had as kids, or I did anyway.
Yeah, you're right. There was just no market or demand for them, really, because nobody was thinking about greenhouse gases. Nobody was that concerned about pollution, and so it wasn't really disruptive. It was a product that was made for a certain industry, like I said, outer space, space exploration, and providing electricity in outer space. That wasn't the only product that NASA had. They have a lot of different ways of making power that are super clean. Like I just recently watched a video on a Stirling engine that they developed that they sent out into space as well. And it's a wicked machine that can be used in solar applications as well, as you know. So it only started becoming a disruptive technology recently. I think Jimmy Carter putting solar panels on the White House back in the 70s, I think, 1970s, and then Reagan or Bush.
I have to disagree. I don't really think that marked any kind of move for PV to become disruptive because of George Bush coming in and taking them off the roof. But they almost started to disrupt business as usual. But I think that where the real, my personal opinion anyway, which may not mean much, but my personal opinion is that the real point at which photovoltaic became a disruptive technology was when people started talking about greenhouse gases and being really concerned about the situation, which I think came about, rightly or wrongly, from the what was it? The awakening, the Al Gore movie that was like, oh, Inconvenient Truth. That was it. Sorry, I knew I wouldn't remember. The Inconvenient Truth. When that came out, people really started thinking about the long-term effect. Because I think initially there's no denying when you get out into the street and there's a bunch of cars in the street or big buses or semi trucks cruising up and down the road. There's no denying that that's stinky stuff. And when you see all the cars and all the traffic, and you know that each one has a little poof of stinky stuff going down the road with it, you really, and I think subconsciously we've always known that, you know, eventually that's going to come back to bite us because there's so much of it slowly accumulating. And then with that inconvenient truth, it was kind of like, okay, everybody, wake up. This is, we're seeing effects. Whether people can disagree with whether that's true or not, but definitely that brought it to people's attention and people started talking about it, and it actually kind of pisses me off, but let's not go there. However, the fact that that movie, for whatever value that it did not give as far as whatever facts or anything like that, the one thing that no one can deny is that that movie did provide the value of actually getting people thinking and talking about the problem of pollution. And so back to my main thought, which is pretty much always my main thought on our disruptive technology hangout, is that where there is a problem, there is the potential for a lucrative solution. And so I think PVs have been a pretty lucrative solution to the problem, but not until much later in their life as a technology. Like when they first came out, they were not seen as solving any problems here on planet Earth, only in space. And then I think once that people started talking about the problem of all these emissions is when PV really started to become a disruptive technology and actually started replacing some of the fossil fuel utilizing energy sources in a lot of different places on the planet. But yeah, however, that opinion that I have may stem a lot from the fact that I wasn't born when Jimmy Carter put solar panels on the roof. So maybe that was the beginning of the disruption caused by photovoltaics. Sorry to interrupt, Larry. Can you go back to where you were at with Jimmy Carter putting solar panels on the roof of the White House and finish that thought? We're muted.
I kind of lost what I was talking about. I know I was talking about Jimmy putting the President Jimmy Carter putting solar panels.
How they didn't start off as a disruptive technology, and
yeah,
then
he put them.
Lately they have.
Yeah, he put them on the White House as a statement of there was the energy crisis of the 70s where you had long lineups for gasoline. There was a gasoline shortage and all that. So that's how that got. I'm pretty sure that's why he did that.
Oh, okay. Well, I missed that. Well, that kind of got people talking until I guess they found more oil wells and brought more gas to the gas station, and then George Bush came and took the panels down. Is that what happened?
I think so. And then the American foreign policy kind of changed, and they pretty much just go into countries and take the oil that they want. Because I don't think America or North America.
Well, that's a little off topic anyway. So back to Jimmy Carter put photovoltaic solar panels on the White House, and that was a pretty big deal at the time, right?
Yeah, kind of, because it was a lot of cool stuff going on. I remember my dad, I think, was reading a magazine called Mother Earth News, and that's where he started learning about photovoltaics and all types of wind power and alternative energies. And so that started happening with the granola crowd in the 70s and 80s and continues on. It's just growing now because it's now a bigger concern. Pollution has become a bigger concern, and so with the disruption part of PV, I think it's kind of always been a disruptive technology, because when you think about it, it's kind of hard to burn gas in outer space, although if they could, they would. If it was possible to drive your car in outer space, man, they'd be all for it. But there's no air, and so the combustion engine won't work in space right now. They haven't figured out how to do that, but
I think they're gonna probably run out of the abundance of the inexpensive enough resource to be able to do that. So I think we'll be able to do that, like drive cars in space, but I don't think they'll be like fossil fuel powered cars. They'll be sun powered or maybe star powered or something.
Yeah, it'd be pretty something different, that's for sure. And so as far as it being disruptive, yeah, it has been a disruptive technology for a long time. And you look, is that a yawn?
Oh, sorry, everybody. I get up at 6. This is like the absolute latest.
I know it's tough doing a global hangout after a full day's work. It's 11 p.m. right now, and people should know that we would choose the hour. It would probably be different. And I know if you're watching in Australia, it's pretty damn early there too. And in Germany, you're just waking up. So we all. I guess we all have to deal with stuff. Although in Malaysia right now, it's new, or just we're just finishing lunch in that area of the globe.
Yeah, so anyways, in October we'll be having lunch hangouts where we are. It'll still be bedtime here in Canada, but we'll be having lunch with you coming in October. Looking forward to that.
Yeah, it'd be kind of nice to hold it more than once a day, have one in the morning and then have one in the evening.
No, so we're not doing that. That's not happening.
Yeah, that'd be a lot of work. We still have businesses to run.
Yeah, but once we have our first billion,
we're tired.
Then we can just do the 8-hour long one.
Yeah.
We'll do concerts for you and have lunch together, and we'll have roaming Wi-Fi, and you can come with us to go parasailing or whatever the heck we're doing. But that's still a little bit of work away, just a bit.
I think that pretty much wraps up. We've really talked quite a bit about the PVs. I think a lot of, if anybody was listening in, I'm sure they learned a lot. And if you want to get actual facts and figures, there's a lot of accurate sources out there for that information.
Yeah, specifically PV Magazine. I'm sure if you Google PV Magazine, they have an abundant archive of articles on recent stuff and the history and whatever information that you're really looking for. I'm sure that you can find it there, as well as other sources. And with that, I think that we will bid you all adieu. Thank you so much for watching, and go out there and make it a great day. And if I don't see you in the future, I will see you out in the pasture at 6 a.m. tomorrow morning. That's where I will be. And I want you all to know. I want you all to know that I believe that anybody, you, me, Larry, anybody, can be, do, and have anything that they want in this life, or we can have everything. And I choose everything, and I hope that you will too, because you can. Have a good night. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.